Hey friends, I'm here to show you how to make yourself some tofu. So if you've never made it or you're intimidated by it and not really sure what to do with it, I have a very simple recipe that I do. I just marinate it in a few ingredients, gives it an Asian flair, and then I bake it in the oven. So first thing you want to know about tofu is that it does come in different forms. We have extra firm, and then we have the silken tofu. The extra firm is really what you want to use when you want to have a nice, firm, chewy type of texture when you finish cooking it. So you want to get the extra firm. I have it here. This is extra firm. And then what you want to do is take all the water out. It's soaking in water. This one I have already sliced, and I'm just going to pour this water out. Okay, so I take out as much water as I can, and then I'm just going to peel this back. And then I take the tofu out, this block, and I'm going to wrap it in a towel. This is a cotton towel, it's 100% cotton, so this is going to really absorb a lot of the moisture that's in the tofu. If you don't do this, you're going to have a really soggy finish, and you're not going to like it. It's going to be really mushy. It holds a lot of water. Tofu is like a sponge. So I'm going to actually place this in the refrigerator between two plates. And honestly, because it does lose so much water in the towel, I'll probably switch my towel halfway through. So maybe like in an hour or so. I mean, ideally, the longer you leave this wrapped and try to get the water out, the better. But you can really get away with maybe a couple of hours. You can pat it dry again with a paper towel. Then you want to put your marinade on. So I'm going to let this get a lot of moisture out, and I'll be back in a minute. So when the tofu feels dry enough, which in this case I think it is, I'm just going to pat it dry a little bit more with a paper towel. I don't feel much water coming out. I mean, of course, if you squeeze it, you'll feel a little bit more moisture. There are tofu presses too that you can purchase if you want to use that, but I'm old school. I just put it between two plates with a towel. So then at this point, what I do is I'll cut this to maybe like 1/2 inch sections. And then that's when I start to marinate it. So I'm going to cut this, and it's still a little moist inside. So, I mean, I could pat it dry a little further, or what I'll do is I'll just make sure that my marinade isn't too wet when I'm ready to put it in the oven. So you can, take this up again and pat it dry. Pat this one dry. Okay. So I'm going to just place all of this into a dish, a deep dish, and I'm going to put my marinade in here. So I want to show you my marinade. The marinade is really just a combination. It's kind of like a sweet and sour, a little spice. I use maple syrup, about 1/4 cup, maybe a couple tablespoons, depends. I actually use this sweet chili sauce. It gives it that hot but sweet flavor. Of course, you need a little bit of soy or tamari. You can use whatever you want. Sometimes I use a combination of tamari or soy sauce or liquid aminos in this case, and coconut aminos, which is the sap from the coconut, and it gives it some sweetness. You have to put a little ginger in there to give that nice kick of heat, as well as a little sprinkle of hot chili pepper or crushed red pepper. Whatever your preference is, you can modify this to whatever you like or enjoy, and it doesn't have to be this recipe at all. There's plenty of marinades out there for you. So I'm going to just now place all of these into the dish. Mix up my marinade. And I'll probably, the longer, again, just like taking the moisture out, the longer you have the marinade, the more flavor. But again, you have to be careful of it being too soggy. So if you do leave the marinade on for a while, you're going to definitely want to pat this dry again before putting it in the oven. I probably a minimum of 2 hours. So often I'll prepare this or start the process the night before with taking the moisture out of the tofu. And then in the morning or in the afternoon, I will make my marinade and begin marinating it. So that's where we'll leave off with the marinade, and I will toss this back and forth a couple of times just so that everything is covered, and then we'll get it in the oven. Nice. Now, once this is finished. You can actually cut these into bite-sized pieces, leave them how they are, cut them thinner, and that way they can be used in many different ways. You can throw it into a salad in little chunks, or you can have more like a couple of thinner slices that are delicious on a sandwich. This is taking in a lot of the marinade. So like I said, you could just dab it lightly if you want. I'm actually going to leave this because I think they're dry enough. And if you leave them in the oven, it's going to bake for 350, 30 minutes each side. So after 30 minutes, I'm going to flip all of these over and give it another 30 minutes. Tofu is finished and it's absolutely perfect. You can see the nice golden hue that it has. It's firm, yet it's still soft in the middle, so it has a nice chewy texture. And I plated it up for you so you can see how lovely it looks as a meal. So I have some green beans with sweet potato and the tofu as my protein. So of course you can serve it any way you'd like. Previously I mentioned on top of a salad, you can throw it into a pasta, make a sandwich, into soup, or just have it as a snack. So please give it a try. I hope you like it. It's super easy and it's very good for you. Bon appetit.